Welcome to Hey Soul Sista, the podcast for women ready to embrace greater joy, freedom, and a soulful life. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe, follow, like, and share. Welcome back to Hey Soul Sista. Today we're diving into a conversation that touches so many women's lives in one way or another, the journey of fertility. For some, it's joyful and straightforward, but for many, it can be heartbreaking, complicated, and full of hope and longing. So I'm joined by a very special guest, Dr. Erin Fuller, a fertility specialist from Genea. She's dedicated her career to helping women and couples navigate the highs and lows of trying to have a baby. So in this episode, we talk about why she was drawn to this work, how she holds space for her patients' emotions, why motherhood is so important for so many women, and what happens when the dream of having a baby doesn't unfold as hoped. This conversation is about science and about soul, because fertility isn't just a medical journey, it's a deeply human one. Dr. Erin, welcome to Hey Soul Sista.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
So we met, must have been about a year ago when we were making a video for the Sister Code lunch.
Yes.
Yes. Yep. You're an amazing woman. Do you feel great that you're helping so many families bring babies into the world?
Look, it's a really rewarding area to be in. And obviously when you hear back from a couple who have had their baby or a single woman who's had her baby and you find out that everything's gone great, it's really lovely.
Oh, that's wonderful. So how did you come to be a fertility specialist?
Yeah, so I first did obviously obstetrics and gynecology training. That's where we all have to start. That's a 6-year training program. Wow. And during that, 2 fertility specialists, one who is still my practice partner, Dr Mufamwe McElveen, and Dr Robert Woolcott, who was the sort of father of IVF in Newcastle. He set up the first IVF unit in Newcastle. He's now retired. But they ran some education sessions during my training for us trainees. So we would go along to their rooms, they would give us some dinner, they would give us some education. And I met them during that time. I was also doing a Master's of Reproductive Technology at that stage. So I sort of knew a lot of the answers to the questions that they were asking. And so they kind of approached me and said, are you interested in this area? And I said, look, I really am. I'm doing this Master's. I'm finding it fascinating. And that spiraled into me then trying to tailor the jobs I did in the last few years of training to be fertility related or give me exposure to fertility work. And then I came back to Newcastle and joined them in practice.
Why do you think it is that so many women have such a longing to become a mother, to have babies? Is it a biological thing or is it more of the emotional thing?
I think it's both.
Yeah.
I think there's some kind of underlying thing that women are born with where we just need that baby in our lives. I'm not sure whether there's something written in our DNA code or what it is, but I think that there's an inbuilt biology within women to want that. And then as we grow up, we see the presence of children in our lives and that emotional connection comes in as well.
You know, it's funny, preparing for this episode, I was thinking about that. I was going back to remembering when I was newly married.
Yep.
And I was really conscious, like, okay, I'm going to have a baby now.
Yeah.
I want to have a baby.
Yep.
And I was 24 at the time, which is so young. I look back now and
it's great from a fertility perspective.
Yeah.
To have babies at 24.
Well, I feel straight away.
Yeah.
You know, I was very fortunate. I was like, let's have a baby, boom, pregnant. But I was reflecting on that before today, thinking about what was it? Was it in me like that emotionally, or was it the like that biological pull?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of both, really.
Yeah.
I think it's what we're exposed to as we're growing up, but there's some kind of underlying biological instinct to want to reproduce and have your own children.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, I always wanted 4 children. I'm the oldest of 4. But I'm going to admit that after I gave birth the first time, the only time, after I did that, I was like, I don't know if I can ever do that again. But I ended up being a mum of 4 children anyway. So,
lovely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just 3 of them didn't come out of my body. Yeah. So let's get down to it. What is the main reason the infertility in women?
There are a number of reasons that women can have trouble with fertility. I think one of the things you've already alluded to, that you said that you were 24 when you first got married and you wanted children, and that's so young. But biologically, we're designed to have babies younger. Our society has changed substantially, and we now, from a society expectation perspective and from a we need to build our careers and do all of these other things and travel and enjoy life, etc., women are living it a lot longer to have babies. Unfortunately, our biology hasn't changed, and women struggle to have babies when they're older. And so as our population leads to trying to have babies at an older age, women are struggling more. So age is one of the biggest impacts on female fertility. There are a number of other things that can impact fertility. So endometriosis can impact fertility. And again, delaying having babies leads to more women getting endometriosis. So that's prominent in our society. There are other things like obesity, which is increasing in our society, that has an impact on fertility. And then things like PCOS. And then just a whole bunch of women who end up with other things like, say, for example, blocked or damaged fallopian tubes from ectopic pregnancies or infections. Sometimes we have, and I shouldn't say sometimes because it's one of the biggest reasons, unexplained, as in we can't actually find a problem, but this person is just not falling pregnant. Or fertility related to their situation. So either single women or same-sex women who need fertility help because of their situation.
So if a woman or a couple come to see you, what's kind of like the first thing that you would talk to them about?
So I always assess their history. So that's the start of any sort of medical consultation, as it were. So I want to know lots of things about them, their medical history, their fertility or obstetric and gynecology history. Have they been pregnant in the past? How did those pregnancies go? What were the outcomes of them? Are they on any medications that might be affecting things? Family history, because some things can affect your fertility that are inherited from your family. And it's not just the woman. If she has a partner, I want the history from the partner as well. So are they on medications? What's their background? Do they have any major medical problems? And what tests have they had? So some people come to me having had nothing done, and that's totally fine. And some people come and they've had everything done, or they've already seen a different fertility specialist, and I'm sort of the second opinion type of thing. So a roundup on what's been done so far and what are all of their results.
So I can imagine that going through the whole fertility journey could be very emotional, especially for couples that have been trying for a long time.
Definitely. There's always a box of tissues on the desk in my room, and I must say it's used quite often. A lot of women find this area exceedingly emotive, and it's not just the women. I have passed over a box of tissues to a guy in my room on a number of occasions as well. It's exceedingly emotive when you're not getting the outcome that you want of being pregnant and having a baby. So a lot of women and a lot of men find this area really, really challenging, particularly if they've been trying for a long time, or they've had losses along the way that have been really challenging to deal with.
How do you hold the space for those emotions, for those couples, the grief and the sadness, the hope? How do you manage that?
I guess there are some patients that you end up having a little bit of a cry along with them because you've been their doctor for a long time and you've seen the ups and the downs and all of that kind of thing. But I also need to be able to keep going. So I guess I need to pick up and then move to the next person, and I need to give some emotional space from it sometimes, but you do feel the highs and lows. And sometimes I walk into Genea and I see we've got a board where we write down all of the women who are pregnant that month for our stats. We have to report everything back. And sometimes I walk in and I see a name on the board and I might scream out, "Oh, yes,"
Oh, how good is that?
and I'm like, "Did everyone see this?" sort of thing. And yeah.
Because it would be an emotional roller coaster for you as well.
It is. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So how do you manage that within yourself?
I guess I've just grown used to in the moment dealing with that emotion and then moving on to the next thing. I try not to take it home, but sometimes you do. So sometimes I come home and my husband's like, oh, you didn't have a good day. And I'm like, no, I didn't have a good day. Or sometimes I come home and I say, oh, I had a great outcome today. It was really, really good. So he's a good emotional support at home too.
Oh, how lovely is that? Do you have kids?
Yes, I do.
How many do you have?
I have two. I have a girl, Lauren, who's 10, going on 16.
Yeah.
I have a boy, Henry, who's just about to turn 8.
Yeah. Do people ever get to the point where you're like, it's just not going to happen to you?
Yeah, we do. And we have those hard conversations. And sometimes we're getting signs of that as we're going along. And I start to bring in concepts of things like, I don't think that we're going to get there with either your eggs or your sperm or whatever it is. And we start to have other conversations, like using egg or sperm donors, or there are some situations where we need to consider surrogacy. They're rarer, but they happen. And there are occasional patients who make the really, really tough decision to stop and walk away.
Yeah. Well, what percentage of people would probably get to that point where they're like,
Really,
I'm out?
really low.
Okay. Then.
Most people, even if it ends up being a situation that wasn't how they originally thought, as in not potentially even using their own eggs or sperm, most people get there in the end. But there are a very small percentage who will walk away without accomplishing what we wanted, or who saw me, was successful the first time, came back, and then we struggled for the second time round, and they walk away with one child when they thought that they might walk away with more than one child. Yeah. So their idea of what their family is changed from what they originally thought.
Yeah. People that may be in that situation, would you find that they're kind of just like, look, we're just grateful to have a baby?
Yeah, a lot of people get to that point where they're like, look, we're exceedingly grateful that we've got the child that we have. Obviously, we would have preferred to have gotten that second one, but some people get to the point where they just say, this is too emotionally challenging and we need to stop.
Yeah. So, Dr. Erin, working in fertility means being part of some of the most intimate and emotional journeys and stories in people's lives. What does this work mean to you on a personal and a soulful level?
Oh, it means everything. It's fantastic. When I look back at how many people that I've achieved a pregnancy for, it's fantastic. It's such a lovely thing to think that that's my job.
Yeah. And do you have those stats on how many babies you've helped create?
I mean, I sort of know year by year how many cycles I'm doing and things like that, but I don't actually know the exact number, but it would be getting to the thousands sort of thing, I would imagine by now, because I've been in this game for over a decade now.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
What about some of those crazy stories? You see the daytime telemovies about the fertility male doctors, and there's like 1,000 children that were actually theirs.
Yeah, look, Australia has extremely strict regulations compared to, say, the States or other countries around the world, and it just can't really happen here. There's just too much regulation in it.
Did you ever see that? I think it was on 60 Minutes, and they were like, all these children had a funny eye, and that's how they kind of like, they realised they had this genetic issue, and it was
Yeah, I've so far decided to not, because I think it's just horrifying. But I know that a bunch of people at Genea have watched those,
Yeah.
and they've told me all about them with looks of horror in their eyes.
Just go, gross.
Yes, exactly.
Gross.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. You wonder if he's got the God complex thing going on.
I'm sure that there's some of that.
Yeah. So weird. So weird. Do you have photos of the babies?
So we do at Genea, for the ones that want to. So when you go into the corridor, in our unit, there's a wall there where there's sort of 2023, 4 and 5 and babies that people have sent in pictures from those years. And then we update it as time goes on. It's just ones that people are happy to share their photo and have it up on the wall.
Actually, I remember seeing that. It was so beautiful.
Yeah, it's really nice. And
Yeah.
sometimes I stand in the corridor waiting for a patient who might be going to the bathroom or whatever, and sometimes I sit there and stare at all the babies.
My goodness, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what have you learned about resilience and hope and the human spirit through your work? Because you would have seen people that, reach the depths of despair,
Absolutely.
thinking that they may never be able to have the baby that they are wanting. What have you learnt about that about people?
Oh, look, people are very resilient. Women are very resilient. The women who pick themselves up and just keep going in the face of sort of heartbreak and loss is just astounding sometimes. I've got a number of patients that I can think of over the years that I just think, wow, that woman's amazing.
Yeah. Wow. I have a couple of friends that have gone through IVF, and one very close friend of mine. And what is so beautiful is I think by the time she was in her 30s, by the time she conceived, she had polycystic ovaries. And she has 2 boys now, both with IVF. And I just see how much she loves and appreciates those boys. And she says that. She says,
Yeah.
I am just so grateful for my boys because it was so hard.
Yeah, absolutely. I always find it fascinating when they come back and see me, and because they might be wanting their second or third or a subsequent baby, and just part of my job, I need to know how their pregnancy went and their obstetric history from that, because sometimes it changes management that I do. But when I say, oh, how was the pregnancy? Were there any complications? And they say no, I think to myself, well, you kind of deserve that. After all that work to get that pregnancy, that was great that it all went good in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you met any of your babies that are now like kids since you've been in the game for over a decade?
Yep. I see some kids around Newcastle all the time. There was one that kept popping up in my daughter's nippers class for a while and various things like that. Sometimes out and about just at the shop, she'll run into someone and they'll say, oh, hi, and this is such and such. And they're now 5 or 6 years old type of thing. So
you're like, I knew you when you were just a little egg.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I knew you before your mum knew you.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. So in your view, what do you think women discover about themselves?
I guess there's that point that some patients get to where they make a decision where how much do they really want this and what are their priorities in life, because it does for some women who are having a really challenging time get to a point where they need to decide, are they willing to use somebody else's eggs? Are they willing to have another woman carry their baby for them? Those kind of things. And I guess that's a really personal decision for some women as to what lengths that they are happy to go through to achieve the goal that they want, which is a baby. I also know that there's a lot of women who struggle a lot, and there's a few services in Newcastle, a few psychology services that actually specialise in this area, and I often recommend that go and get a little bit of extra help if they're really struggling.
Look, I had to have therapy around having my hysterectomy. So I get that you might need some therapy around your fertility. Absolutely.
Sometimes you just need someone who's a bit independent to have a chat to. Yeah. And there's a couple of places in Newcastle that are actually specialise in this area and can be really helpful.
I'm a very big advocate for therapy. Yeah. Because sometimes we just can't see the forest for the trees and we need somebody.
That is actually the name of one of the services, Forest for the Trees.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. But it's true.
That and Newcastle Perinatal Place. They're both the ones that specialise in this area.
Yeah.
So,
because when you're in it, it's very hard to take that higher view.
Yep.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. So fertility science has come a long way.
Yes, it has.
A long way. What breakthroughs or changes in the field give you hope for women and families today and in the future?
I guess just that our pregnancy rates keep climbing. I mean, even in the 10 years that I've been or over 10 years that I've been working in this area, our pregnancy rates continue to go up, despite the fact that women are getting older and all of these things. Our technology advances in the lab just keep making us get more people pregnant, which is awesome. So even just the change that Genea made a few years ago to something called Jerry, which is our incubators, that in the past, the incubators, the scientists had to take the embryos out and put them under the microscope to do all of the checks that they need to do. Now they stay in the incubator the entire time, so they're not disturbed during that time. And there's like time-lapse photography on each single embryo. And so the scientists do all of their checks from that time-lapse photography, and it's increased pregnancy rates yet again. It also means that patients can see their embryos grow. So we've got an app called Grow, and they can choose to. Some people don't want to, so we don't make it that everyone gets it, but you can actually get images and watch your embryos grow in the lab.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. But
Okay.
I love that that's something that's cool for the patient, but actually increases their pregnancy potential.
Yeah. So it's the process to get the sperm and the egg and you mix it in a petri dish. That's my perception. Is that right?
You basically, every month a woman has a whole group of eggs that are chosen. So all we're trying to do is grow those ones. We're not using up one that she wasn't going to lose anyway. We grow those with a series of medications. We collect them from our ovaries. We get sperm. We put them together, either just mixing them or injecting them, depending on the parameters and what we're trying to achieve. We grow them for 5 days, and then we put an embryo in.
So the embryo, that's 5 days, is
5
it?
days old.
5
Yes.
days old.
Yep.
What would happen if you kept them in the petri dish longer?
They just deteriorate. So we do freeze them on day 5 and day 6, but we do all of our transfers on day 5. So yeah.
So what percentage would actually then, because I've heard the terminology take. They take. Is that right?
Oh, as in they implant.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's all dependent on the woman's age. So, for example, it can go from pregnancy rates of, say, 70% in a woman who's under 34 in our unit, down to, if the woman got down to an age of 44 to 45, we're probably looking at 1 to 2% type of thing. So it is very much dependent on the woman's age.
So about 4 years ago, and I'm being serious, I decided I wanted to have a baby. And my girlfriend who works for an obstetrician in Newcastle said, "You're dreaming." And I'm like, really? Aren't there these advances in medical science now in fertility? Surely I could have a baby at 46. And she was like,
Not with your own eggs.
Oh.
With someone else's eggs, yes.
So my eggs would be too old.
Yeah.
What about the sperm?
It's lesser of an issue. Aging with men does lead to some sperm problems, but it's much less pronounced, and probably only starts to be an issue from about 44 on. But even then, it's really sort of in the 50s and 60s and beyond that's more of an issue. But even then, there's lots of men in those age groups who can still father a pregnancy. So biology for men is somewhat less time dependent.
Yeah, my sister, her husband was 55 when they had a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she was 40, born naturally. So I'm guessing she was lucky.
Oh, 40 is not too bad.
Really? But 6 years, 46.
Yeah. Between 40 and 44, it's a substantial decline.
Yeah. I actually remember in the media when, was it Camilla, the fashion designer?
Yeah.
I think she was at 42 and she announced she was pregnant, and which was wonderful for her. And then it started the whole debate with Lisa Wilkinson. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
Because Camilla, she's very excited and happy. She was 42 and she was like, "Hey, I'm having a baby. See, women can have it all. They can have a career and then they can have a baby at 42. We can all do that." And Lisa Wilkinson came out. She said, "You know what? My story at 42, I tried to fall pregnant and I had miscarriage after miscarriage.
Yep.
It's not that easy."
42 and beyond is much more tricky. And I think the problem is that there's a perception out there that, well, I'll just wait and IVF will fix it all. But we can't fix age. It's just it's a biological thing. We can't make a woman's eggs younger. And I think that there is also some difficulty with, say, Hollywood stars who have a pregnancy at, say, 50, but nobody ever actually talks about the fact that it wasn't with their eggs. And so there's this perception, oh, well, such and such had a baby at 48, so I'll have no problems at all. But it doesn't necessarily work like that.
Which is good to know, right? Because you're right. We just hear the magic stories and
the exceptions to the rules. It's not that women don't fall pregnant in their late 40s, but they're exceptions to the rule. Yeah.
Wow, it's really interesting. So how do you balance the science and the soul, the data and the procedures with the deeply human side of what people are going through?
So, I mean, there's always that we need to have the medical talk with them about where we're at and what are the chances and those kind of things. But whenever I ring someone and they've had a negative result, and I always sort of say, you know, are you okay? Are you guys coping? You know, is there anyone who you can reach out to? Those kind of things. So just trying to make sure that people are taking a second to look after themselves and to feel the feels, as it were. Yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah. Okay, so how long have you been at Genea for?
I joined them in 2013.
Oh, wow. So 12 years ago. So that's the only fertility place that you've worked
Yes.
at?
Yep.
Wow.
Been with them since.
Yeah, they've got a great name too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a beautiful centre
Yes.
locally.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Absolutely. Yep. So what makes the approach at Genea different when it comes to supporting not just the physical side, but also the emotional well-being?
Genea Newcastle is a really small unit. So the good thing about it is that the patients often end up seeing the same faces over and over again. I mean, sure, I'm their fertility specialist, but they have a lot of contact with, say, the nursing staff, our sonographers who do their ultrasounds, those kind of things, and they tend to see the same people over and over again. And so there's that checking in process. The patient will come in the room and one of the nurses will say, oh, how's your dog? Because your dog was sick last week, sort of thing. And, you know, just those checking in on a personal level with our patients. We're a pretty low turnover unit in terms of our staff, so we've got pretty stable staff, and so it's a really nice close-knit unit where everyone knows each other really well, and we've got the science and the technology behind us to back it up and give us one of the best pregnancy rates in the country.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
So what message would you have for women that are struggling with fertility right now?
I would say reach out and talk to someone. So go and see your GP, see whether there's anything that you can discuss with your GP first, get some basic tests, come along and see one of us, even if you've only been trying a little while. If you're just struggling and you're just not sure and you want some reassurance, come and see one of us, because not all of our patients end up with IVF. Probably only about 50% of our patients will end up down that road. There's heaps of other things that we can do to try and achieve a pregnancy for people.
So what are some of the other things?
So we can flush fallopian tubes, we can treat endometriosis with a laparoscopy, we can make women with PCOS who aren't ovulating ovulate with like oral medications. There's a heap of different things that can be done to try and aid and improve someone's fertility. Women with recurrent miscarriage, we can sort of give them some medication and do pregnancy monitoring for them. So a lot of our patients don't end up at Genea having IVF, but they still end up pregnant under our care.
That's really good to know, because I think I just assumed that if you went to an IVF centre, it was like...
Yeah, so I mean, our rooms, which is Newcastle Fertility Specialists, we would say probably only 50% of the patients who come there end up down the line of IVF. The rest have other treatments and other interventions and fall pregnant.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it doesn't always mean seeing a fertility specialist equals IVF.
Yeah, there you go. I've just learned something new. I didn't realise that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm interested in the polycystic ovaries, because I know a number of women who have that.
Yep.
So what actually causes that?
So we think that there's some kind of genetic basis to it. So and then some environmental factors influence how much your PCOS is affecting you. But there's a definite genetic proponent. So you're born with an inheritance of it.
Yeah, okay. Well, so something to be grateful for, having a healthy baby.
Yeah, definitely. And there's the number of women who I have come across over my time that either have PCOS or endometriosis or something like that, and somebody at some point in time has told them that, oh, you can't have babies because of this, and they've got this underlying thought that this is where they're at, but that's not true. Just because you're not having periods doesn't mean you can't have a baby. So there's heaps of things that we can explore, we can manage, we can intervene, we can do to try and get the outcomes that these patients want.
Now, also, my perception of going through the whole fertility process is that it's very expensive. But if I'm guessing, obviously not, given that, well, not all.
Yeah, not all patients will end up paying for an IVF cycle. So not all patients will end up spending a lot of money. IVF, unfortunately, has a cost to it. There are cheaper places in places like Sydney, but you do also somewhat get what you pay for, where our unit has one of the highest pregnancy rates, and that's because of the science and the technology that we've got behind us.
Oh, beautiful. So where do you see yourself in the next, say, 5 to 10 years? Is this the fertility specialization? This is it for you?
Yeah, I am. I was previously, up until about a year and a half ago, well, basically the start of 2024, up until that point in time, I did a little bit of general gynecology as well. I've now completely stopped general gynecology in favour of fertility. I also used to have a very small public appointment, and I also gave that up in sort of basically to just focus on this. So I wholly and solely just do fertility now.
Yeah, wow.
Yep.
Oh.
I'm really happy in that space, so it's good.
So if people want to find out more about you or maybe book in for a consult.
Yep. So we've got heaps of different websites. I've got my own website, so Dr Erin Fuller. The Genea website has some information about me as well. And our rooms, or our practice, Newcastle Fertility Specialist, has information. You can either ring our rooms and book in, or we do hot docs appointments. So on our on the websites, you can actually click on a link that brings you to hot docs and just book in.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on to Hey Soul Sista and having a chat about that.
Thanks so much for having me. It was great.
Oh, lovely. Okay.